Did you know salmon use our local waterways here in San Jose as their spawning grounds? From February to March, baby salmon are hatching and emerging from their redds in our rivers and creeks. During this time, we walk the waterways looking for any salmon fry to see if last year's redds were successful. Before we started this year, we took a trip to Sacramento to see what the spawning season looks like at the Nimbus Fish Hatchery. We missed the salmon spawning season at the hatchery, but we were just in time for the Steelhead spawning season. We toured the visitor center where Molly Shea, the hatchery's education programs manager, answered some of our questions about the hatchery. Hi Molly, could you tell us the purpose of the Nimbus Fish Hatchery?
Mitigation.
Yeah, so Nimbus Fish Hatchery is one of many California Department of Fish and Wildlife hatcheries. Some of the hatcheries are for raising fish to stock local lakes and ponds for recreational purposes, but other hatcheries are for mitigating for the loss of habitat. So Nimbus is one of those hatcheries where we're raising two species of fish, Chinook salmon and steelhead trout, to mitigate for the loss of habitat above the dam. So Nimbus and Folsom dams are the two dams on the American River here, and obviously those are cutting off habitat for those two species of fish. And so because of that, we are raising fish here that would basically hopefully replicate the numbers of fish that would be above the dam if it weren't there.
Awesome. Can you explain more about what we are seeing in front of us right now?
Yeah, so on a spawning day, which is what we're doing today, we're bringing adult steelhead trout into the top of the fish ladder. So they've come up the river, gone in through the entrance of the fish ladder, which is at the base of Nimbus Dam, and they've swam up that fish ladder all the way until they get right outside the hatchery building. When we've got enough fish, we'll then bring them into the hatchery using a machine called a crowder. Today we're problem solving with, when the crowder's not working, what do we do? Kind of the old-fashioned way where we're netting the fish into the hatchery building. So they'll get brought in to this white basket that's kind of like an elevator going up and down. When we get enough fish, an electrical current will be sent through the basket, and that stuns the fish so that they are easier to handle. Doesn't kill them, we don't want to kill them, we just want them to be easier to handle so it's safer for both the fish and the hatchery staff. So once the fish have been stunned, the elevator gets raised up, and that's when the hatchery staff will start handling them to determine whether or not they're ready to spawn. And they determine that by just squeezing the bellies of the fish. If they squeeze the females and eggs readily come out, that means they're ripe or ready to spawn. And same with the males. If they squeeze them and milt or the sperm fluid comes out, then they're also ready to spawn. If they're not ready to spawn, at this stage, we'll probably just release them back to the river, which we can do here at the hatchery. You can see there's numbered circles there, and the one farthest on the right says river. That's basically the fish's own little water slide back to the river.
Approximately how many fish does the hatchery process, and are there any goals that the hatchery needs to reach?
Yeah, so our release goal is 4.5 million, in a typical year, 4.5 million Chinook salmon and 430,000 steelhead trout. So that's our release goal. So that's the number of fish we're aiming to put back into the river or delta so that they can go out to the ocean and hopefully return. Now, one adult female salmon typically has about 5,000 eggs in her belly. Yeah, a lot of eggs. And so, if you were to take that 4.5 million, divide by 5,000, that would be the number of fish that we're typically taking over the course of the spawning season. Now, there's lots and lots of fish that come up our fish ladder, and the important thing is we want to capture fish and genetic diversity from the entire run, right? So there's salmon who return to the river early and, even October, but the beginning of November. There's fish that return in later November, early December, and then there's our, late bloomers who come in the end of the season.
Before parting ways, we stopped by the fish ladder where Molly pointed out some features on the staging steelhead trout that we see on Chinook salmon in San Jose. Molly, can you explain what the white patches are on the fish?
Yeah, no worries. So we see lots of steelhead here in the top of the fish ladder, all sorts of white spots on them. So those white spots are freshwater fungus. So they'll get those when they return to the river or freshwater from the ocean. you'll see here has a laceration or a cut on its body, and that's where they tend to get the freshwater fungus. It often colonizes areas where there's injuries of some kind, or where they're kind of coming in contact with each other a lot. So the males will often get it, especially, you see this especially in the salmon, a little less so in the steelhead trout, but the males tend to get it a lot on their mouth, around their face, because they're fighting off, right, other males. They're getting kind of territorial. Whereas in the females, you'll see it a lot more on their tail, because they've been in the river potentially digging a red or a nest, right, with their tail fin. And so their tail gets really ragged and therefore is more susceptible to the freshwater fungus. The salmon, because they die after one spawning event, they are very close to the end of their life by the time they get to the fish ladder and the hatchery and this part of the river. And so they get the freshwater fungus, tenfold compared to the steelhead. They become kind of like zombies, right? You'll often see folks refer to them that way when they return to the river. And that's because, their body is focused on one thing only, and that's spawning.
We had a very informative experience, and we would like to thank Molly for taking the time to answer our questions. The hatchery has a visitor center and self-guided tours with tons of information about steelhead, salmon, and the management of these species. For more information about the hatchery, visit wildlife.ca.gov/fishing/hatcheries/Nimbus. And if you would like to know more about our events and activities in the waterways, visit sbcleancreeks.com.